member.
No, sir. Sir,
you're exhausting all the time of
sir,
the party.
please allow me to speak, sir. We'll
Please
take out
conclude
that.
now.
Sir,
Please
we'll
conclude.
take out that. Please allow me to speak, sir. Sir, 6% of...
I can allow.
Sir, 6% of India's GDP should be spent on education.
Time.
Sir, we have a new education policy. We are talking lofty things about education, but we are spending only 3% of India's GDP on education, despite all these lofty goals. Sir, another worrying aspect is the union health expenditure is down 0.4% of GDP in 21-22. In this COVID pandemic year, we are reducing the allocation to health. Sir, I could go on and on, but because of paucity of time, I'll come back to my home state of Odisha. And my Chief Minister has raised time and again issues of negligence in the areas of tele-density, railway network, banking, coal royalty, industrial corridor, drinking water, and the cutting of funds for scheduled areas like the KBK region.
Thank you.
Sir,
you conclude now.
Sir, Odisha has received global acclaim for its disaster management. Yet, sir, the disaster response fund, which should have been, sir, on par with the Himalayan states, has been mandated 90-10 for Odisha. Sir, I'll give you an example. In the last 3 years, we have received 4 cyclones: Titli, Fani, Amphan, and Yas. Yet, sir, Government of India is unwilling to split the sharing pattern of disaster response fund to 90-10.
Your
and
time
also,
is over. Your party time is over. Nothing is left. Please conclude now. I'll call the next speaker.
Sir, I'll conclude. Sir, I'll conclude. Give me 1 minute.
Please don't make commentary. Please.
Sir,
you have to listen to him. Don't comment. Don't make commentary.
Sir, I'll conclude in 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, please conclude.
Sir,
now.
the railway density in Odisha is only 17 as opposed to the national average of 21. Sir, we are thankful to the Honorable Minister Railways for sanctioning 9,700 crore this year, but I hope that the Minister will not lower this in the revised rate.
Thank you.
And I will also urge him...
Manoj Kumar Jha.
Sir, last, sir, 30 seconds. Sir, 30 seconds.
I have called the next speaker already.
Sir, connectivity is the lifeline of any nation. So I strongly urge the government to take care of the need of Odisha in terms of railway density, highways, banking. Sir, 1/3 of the GPs in Odisha do not have bricks and mortar branches. 70% of the districts in the KBK region.
Manoj Kumar Jha. It will not go on record now. Manoj Kumar Jha.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chairman, sir. आज शुरुआत आप ही से करता हूँ. वक्त थोड़ा कम है मेरे हिस्से में, तो मालिक तेरी रजा रहे या तू ही तू रहे, ना मैं रहूं ना मेरी आरज़ू रहे. तो वो एक सेंस ऑफ प्रोटेक्शन भी आपसे चाहता हूँ. वाइस चेयरमैन सर, मैं आपके माध्यम से ये कहूँ, इस देश में जितने विभाग हैं कैबिनेट में, सबसे महत्वपूर्ण विभाग फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री है. और मुझे चिंता होती है उस मिनिस्ट्री में जो भी लोग हैं उनकी, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि पेंडेमिक के साए में नीति और नियत तय करना आसान नहीं होता. आपके लिए तो और भी आसान नहीं होता. और मैंने कैबिनेट रिशफल जब देखा कि जब क्रेडिट की बात होती है तो क्रेडिट तो तय है कहां जाएगा. हाँ, बदनामी अगर आनी है तो किसके सर पे ठीकरा फोड़ा जाएगा ये भी पता है. तो माननीय उपसभापति महोदय, इसे कहा गया अमृत काल का ये बजट. अब मैं जब कार्यशैली देखता हूं बीते कुछ वर्षों की, तो मुझे स्पष्ट दिखता है कि अमृत किन के लिए है और विष किन के लिए है. अमृत मित्रों के लिए है सर, पर्याप्त मात्रा में. इतना अमृत पी लेंगे कि पेट और फूल जाएगा उनका. लेकिन विष एक महती जनता को, एक विशाल जनता के हिस्से में विष के अलावा कुछ नहीं आ रहा है. माननीय सभापति महोदय, मैं शुरू करूंगा डिफेंस को लेकर के एलोकेशन पर. मेरे दोस्त सुजीत ने अभी बात की. मैं सिर्फ इतना कहूंगा, कहीं एलोकेशन में रिक्रूटमेंट का हिस्सा क्या होता है, क्या वो आपके जहन में है भी या नहीं, या आपने तय कर लिया है कि रोजगार विहीन ही सब कुछ होगा. 70 वर्षों से एक डिमांड चल रही है. अभी भी गुरुग्राम में लोग बैठे हुए हैं. अहीर रेजिमेंट की डिमांड की. एक गौरवशाली इतिहास रहा है. आपके जहन में नहीं पड़ता, ना पड़े. वोट की चोट बहुत सिखा देती है. मैं सिर्फ इतना कह करके अगले बिंदु पे आऊंगा. सर, आई एम डेलिबरेटली अवॉइडिंग मैक्रो इश्यूज. I could have dealt with that. Poor health of economy, बागवानी फिस्कल डेफिसिट, रिग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन और के शेप्ड रिकवरी। अब ये मैं बीते कुछ वर्षों से वी शेप, के शेप, तो मैंने थोड़ा रिसर्च किया। सर एक जेड शेप रिकवरी भी होती है। जेड शेप रिकवरी यानी के 15वें अल्फाबेट के 15वें अल्फाबेट के रूप में आता है, जिस जेड शेप रिकवरी में खतरा होता है कि आप पुनः रिसेशन में जा सकते हैं। आप ज्यादा अर्थशास्त्र समझते हैं, यहां से चिदम्बरम साहब और कपिल सिब्बल जी बोले, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर साहब हैं, आप लोग ज्यादा समझते हैं। हमारे लिए तो अर्थशास्त्र सर गरीब और निम्न आय वर्ग की थाली है। मैं तो उसकी साइज देखता हूं सर। मैं बजट में पोर्ट वाले को क्या मिला, एयरपोर्ट वाले को क्या मिला, उससे मैं चिंतित नहीं हूं। दे दीजिए ना सब कुछ, लेकिन गरीब की थाली महफूज रखिए। गरीब की थाली छोटी होती जा रही है, नौकरियां नहीं मिल रही हैं। अभी रेलवे वाले विजुअल्स आप सबने देखे होंगे माननीय उपसभापति महोदय। मैं खास तौर पे कहूं, एजुकेशन और हेल्थ में जो आपका एलोकेशन है, अलॉटमेंट है, उसमें फिर से एक बार वही रोजगार सृजन की कोई चर्चा नहीं। देयर इज नो विजन एट ऑल। आपने एक आंकड़ा दिया 60 लाख 5 वर्षों में। अरे लेबर फोर्स में एंट्री के लिए तैयार लोगों की आपको फेहरिस्त की जानकारी है? करोड़ों करोड़ दस्तक दे रहे हैं, आपने दरवाजे बंद करके रख दिए। और चूंकि आपने दरवाजे बंद करके रख दिए तो वो आपको वो विजुअल्स देखने पड़ रहे हैं। माननीय मंत्री महोदय हैं, आपके माध्यम से कहूं सर, फौरी तौर पर एक रोजगार कैलेंडर पर काम करिए। सालाना हर विभाग, हर क्षेत्र, हर निकाय वहां से निकाल के रखिए कितनी वैकेंसी है और कब भरेंगे, क्योंकि जब आप उन वैकेंसीज को नहीं भरेंगे, सब्र का प्याला बढ़ता जा रहा है। माननीय उपसभापति महोदय, एक माननीय उपसभापति महोदय, सदन में पहले भी मैंने कहा, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री, कई राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री, वित्त मंत्री बार बार इस्तेमाल करते हैं मुफ्त राशन, मुफ्त वैक्सीन। हाथ जोड़ के विनती करता हूं, हम वेलफेयर स्टेट हैं, मुफ्त कह करके गरीब की गरिमा पर चोट मत करिए। हर नागरिक का स्टेक है, अधिकार है, और उस अधिकार को आप जब कहते हैं मुफ्त में दिया, मुफ्त में दिया, अरे आप अपनी तस्वीर लगा लीजिए बोरी पे, आप तस्वीर लगा लीजिए बोरी पे, सोच ईमानदार, काम दमदार वगैरह वगैरह लिख दीजिए, लेकिन मुफ्त कह करके गरीब का अपमान मत करिए, क्योंकि गरीब की लानत अगर पड़ेगी तो बहुत मुश्किल होगी। माननीय उपसभापति महोदय, गरीबी का विलोम ब्रायन स्टीवेंसन कह गया, गरीबी का विलोम संपत्ति नहीं होता है, गरीबी का विलोम न्याय होता है। आपको अपने बजट के नजरिए में देखना होगा। मैं तीसरी बार बजट पे बोल रहा हूं सर, तीसरी बार इस सदन में आर्टिकल 39 क्लॉज सी एक बार पढ़िए और मूल्यांकन करिए दैट द ऑपरेशन ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम डज नॉट रिजल्ट इन द कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ वेल्थ एंड मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन टू द कॉमन डेट्रीमेंट। रीड द ऑक्सफैम रिपोर्ट। सर थोड़ा इंडल्जेंस, थोड़ा सा सर, मैं बस थोड़ा ज्यादा वक्त नहीं लूंगा, बस वाइंड अप ही कर रहा हूं सर। दूसरी चीज, बस मैं ये कह रहा हूं, तीसरी बार ये दिखा रहा हूं आर्टिकल 39। खैर सर, ग्रोथ बड़ी चर्चा होती है, आप कुछ नंबर बताते हैं, ये डिस्प्यूट करते हैं इधर से, सर हमको उससे भी मतलब नहीं है। आपका ग्रोथ फेसलेस क्यों है? फेसलेस ग्रोथ, जॉबलेस ग्रोथ, और तब तुर्रा इस बात का कि $5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बनेंगे। सर आत्मनिर्भरता पर तो बहुत चर्चा होती है, मैं बोलना भी नहीं चाहता। मनरेगा को लेकर के एक बात जरूर कहूंगा। कल सुशील मोदी जी सदन में बोल रहे थे कि आंकड़े में गलती की इन्होंने, रिवाइज एस्टीमेट को, बजट एस्टीमेट को, रिवाइज एस्टीमेट को। मैं अग्री करता हूं सर आपसे, मैं उसमें नहीं जाना चाहता हूं, लेकिन जब रिवाइज एस्टीमेट के आंकड़ा आपके पास था और पैंडेमिक ने डिसरप्शन कर दिया था, आपने उस आंकड़े को क्यों नहीं देखा? आपने उस आंकड़े को क्यों खारिज कर दिया? और मैं आपको बताऊं सर, उस आंकड़े से संबंधित मनरेगा में मांगने पर भी काम न मिलने में बिहार, गुजरात और मध्य प्रदेश सबसे ऊपर है सर। ये शर्म का विषय होना चाहिए, सदन के लिए सामूहिक शर्म का विषय होना चाहिए, पीठ ठोकने की बात नहीं है सर। बस सर मैं एक आध मिनट लूंगा, उससे ज्यादा नहीं। और सर हर साल काम न मिलने का औसत ये बढ़ता जा रहा है, और प्री पैंडेमिक 18-19 से लेकर के अब तक। सर एक अभी हाल में एक किताब पढ़ी सर, बड़ी अच्छी किताब है, आपको दूंगा। मृणाल पांडे जी ने लिखी है माया न घुमायो। सर, उसमें एक व्यक्ति कोरोना के काल में बहुत परेशान होकर के उनको गांव से निकाल दिया, तो वो पहुंचा एक कुएं के पास। तो कुएं में पड़ियां थी। उन्होंने कहा मैं 2 शंख दे रही हूं। एक है करामाती शंख जो मालिक को मनचाही चीजें देता है, एक है डपोर शंख जो लच्छेदार बोली बोलता है, बहुत देने का शोर मचाता है पर वादे कभी पूरे नहीं करता।
धन्यवाद, धन्यवाद।
सर एक
हो गया
सर एक मिनट सर, सेंटेंस खत्म करने दीजिए। सर, पूंजी निवेश का मामला में आता हूं। सर, पूंजी निवेश, मेरे मित्र पूंजीपति कोई नहीं है, पूंजी से बहुत ताल्लुक नहीं है, लेकिन मैं जानता हूं कि निवेश के लिए माहौल क्या होना चाहिए। सर, जहां फातिहा के लिए उठे हाथ पर कंट्रोवर्सी हो जाए, जहां वस्त्र, कपड़े पे, रहन सहन, खान पान पे, आप उस देश में सर कोई निवेश करने से पहले हिचकेगा। सर 30 सेकंड। सर, आप तो जय हिंद बोलने का, आप शुरू में ही एक शेर आपके लिए सुनाया था, एक और सुनाऊंगा
आपको।
बस सर, रिहैबिलिटेशन
अब नहीं है,
बस आखिरी सर, सैनिटेशन वर्कर्स
इसको खत्म करना है।
30 सेकंड।
डिबेट हैज टू बी कंप्लीटेड टुडे।
सर 30 सेकंड। सर, सैनिटेशन वर्कर्स मुझे माफ नहीं करेंगे। उन्होंने मुझे कहा था कि उनके बजटरी एलोकेशन में एम्प्लॉयमेंट में जो मैनुअल स्कैवेंजर्स का सैनिटेशन के लिए होता है, सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए 30% आपने कटौती कर दी। मैं अभी बोल रहा हूं तो कोई न कोई मैनुअल स्कैवेंजर किसी सीवर में अपनी सांसें आखिरी ले रहा होगा। सर, इसलिए मैं कहता हूं, तेरे वादे पर जिए हम, ये जाने जाना। सर, ये आपके लिए है। तेरे वादे पर जिए हम तो ये जान झूठ जाना कि खुशी से मर न जाते तो एतबार, अगर एतबार होता। जय हिंद सर।
धन्यवाद। वंदना चौहान जी।
Yes, sir, from the Lok Sabha gallery.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, sir. In the extremely limited time at my disposal, I choose to confine my submissions.
Now I have come to the others. You all have 5 minutes only because we will have to complete the debate today.
Sir, that is why I'm taking
Yes,
reference
please.
of my
Please
paper
carry on.
as soon as possible. So I choose to confine my submissions only to urban development component in the budget 22-23. Sir, we have a terrible scenario in our country as far as the cities are concerned. Polluted rivers, deteriorating air quality, dumps of garbage, huge deficit in basic amenities and
वंदना
many
जी, आप
more.
बैठ के भी बोल सकते हैं।
Sir, if you can hear me, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. No, I'm better off standing. So what we need is what the Habitat 2 called a revolution in urban problem solving. Sir, nothing else less will work. So several studies in our country, right from the time when Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi ji set up a National Commission on Urbanization to study the urban issues, or in 2011, the high-powered expert committee which estimated the amount of investment required, or the committee of experts in town and planning which said what is the kind of man-force that is required for, and the latest report of reforms in urban planning capacity in India. All these documents, sir, spell out that the urgency to address cities. And on that count, sir, I congratulate the Finance Minister who seeks to steer a paradigm change to reimagine our cities, only with a hope and prayer that this does not remain a false and half-hearted promise like many others of the government in the past. Sir, she has spelled out several issues which I don't wish to say because they are already in her speech, but I would like to make 6 suggestions for the government's kind consideration. So one, I would like to suggest a National Commission on Urbanization and the constitution of state commissions on urbanization. So we cannot forget that urbanization is a dynamic process and is continuously throwing at us new challenges. It would be good if a statutory body in the form of a National Commission of Urbanization is constituted by a legislation which will continually study, monitor trends of urbanization, and similarly, since local governments is a state subject, a equivalent state commission for urbanization. My second point, sir, is that there should be constitution of a special cadre for municipal services, just like we have the Indian Administrative Services, Indian Foreign Services, Indian Revenue Services. Similarly, a separate cadre for municipal services is absolutely required, considering the fact that municipal corporations now require urban planners economists, management personnel, ecologists, geologists, experts on water and environment, and all these are missing at the moment. My third point, sir, is encourage public participation. In order to make our cities livable, efficient, productive, sustainable, resilient, inclusive, people-centric and techno-savvy, we need experts from different fields to understand the know-how. Point number 4, sir, urban land issues, social and natural features need to be taken into consideration. Land is one of the most important resources in every city, and there is need to address urban land issues beyond real estate, so as to address equity, disparity and inclusion, and further for the protection of natural features, water bodies and the biodiversity. Point number 5, sir, setting up an urban employment guarantee scheme on the lines of Manrega. So we have seen the plight of migrant workers and urban poor during the lockdowns. Schemes for the urban poor on the lines of Manrega will greatly help to address issues of joblessness and unemployment. Services such as arrest of degradation of environment, plantation and conservation of trees, and programs like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan would definitely be could be a part of this. And my last point, sir, mandate annual reports on the status of environment from the ULBs, and further mandate preparation for plans for climate change, its mitigation and adaptation. Several members have said how their cities got impacted by torrential rains and storms. Sir, in this respect, I wish to draw the attention of the government to Schedule 12 of the 74th Amendment, which says that protection of environment, promotion of ecological aspects and urban forestry are responsibilities of the municipal corporations. However, there is no mechanism to monitor what they are doing. And therefore, I urge that the Honourable Minister make certain budgetary provisions for local governments which have paucity of funds to make sure that they can do this. And I would also say that this could amount to be your first step, ma'am, in making the urban development meaningful, and also a first step in the creation of awareness in the direction of enhancing the understanding of carbon-neutral cities. To conclude, sir, we are aware that cities are in growth. Cities occupy 3% of the nation's land, and their contribution to the GDP is a whopping 60%. This is expected to raise to 75% by 2030. To realize our goal of the $5 trillion economy by 2025 and for job creation for our youth, our cities will have to be strengthened sustainably and for its people at the center. As someone has rightly said, cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody. So, in conclusion, at the rate at which our cities are growing, at the rate at which they are deteriorating, I consider this is our last chance. Not only are our cities in the ICUs, they are on ventilators, and therefore we cannot afford to go wrong. Thank you, sir, for giving me the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Ajit Kumar. Please take the example of your previous member. She just finished in time. Please. 5 minutes.
5 minutes only?
Yes.
So I'll try my best. Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir, or Vice Chairman, sir. The legendary lawyer, who was also an economist by choice, while analyzing the Union budget once said, after all, a budget is not intended to be merely an exercise in political survival of or an essay in political gimmick. It is intended to equip the country to face the grim realities of the economic situation. Now, what is the economic realities of this country today? And are there any genuine attempt by the government through the budget to equip the country to face the grim reality of economic inequality? My emphatic answer, sir, would be no. The Union Budget 2022-23 has not taken cognizance of the needs of the poor and middle class despite compelling evidence of widening inequalities. According to the World Inequality Report 2022, India stands as one of the most unequal countries in the world with widespread poverty along with an affluent elite. The report points out that in 2021, the top 10% held 57% of the total wealth in the country, while the share of the bottom 50% was just 30% in the national income in 2021. The Oxfam India's report on inequality finds that the richest 98 Indians own the same wealth as the bottom 552 million people. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought income inequality with 80% of Indian households witnessing headline in their incomes. The Oxfam report also points out that the number of billionaires in the country increased from 102 to 142 during the pandemic period, even as more than 4.6 Indians fell into extreme poverty in 2021. Sir, I now want to raise certain points related to Assam. The state of Assam, which I am representing, is lagging far behind in industrial growth. Industrial development is necessary for the overall development of the state as well as for the generation of employment opportunities for skilled and unskilled workers. In 2018, in the name of industrial development, Advantage Assam was pitched with much fanfare, but it ended in a cloud of smoke without tangible results. Grabbing of government incentives and preferences meant for the industrial development of Northeast by some vested interest lobbies be prevented. The need of the hour is some concrete steps for the development of the industrial sector in Assam, but the same is not visible in the budget. The power scenario of Assam is very pathetic. Sir, against the demand of around 2,000 megawatt, the state generates only around 250 megawatt and is vastly dependent on central allocation. Assam was a pioneer in the country in setting up gas-based power stations in the 60s in the form of Namrup Thermal Power Station. Now, in the fitness of things, set up a gas-based upper thermal power station in between Kukrajhar to Kamrup by utilizing gas from the national gas grid, which is now under construction. Which major projects have been conceived and initiated by the Modi government in the last 7.5 years in northeast states and Assam in particular. So has the Doniya Ministry taken the initiative to explore major projects with the Finance Ministry in the sector like solar energy? Tea and oil have been important assets of Assam, and in the above-mentioned sector, what Modi government has done to generate employment for local people. Northeastern states had been enjoying special status, but Modi-led government discontinued. Has Government of India taken corrective measures to bring Northeastern states to a sustainable level as well as Northeast states have been facing about financial crisis? Will the Finance Minister enlighten the House on what is total earnings from Assam in the oil sector per year and the royalty payoff to Assam? With the introduction of GST, sir, 1 minute. With the introduction of GST, the state government is left with little flexibility in generating its own resources. The state is reeling under a severe financial crisis which impeded development activities. One of the important sources of revenue for the state is a royalty from crude oil, although royalty is required to be paid on the last date of each month as per the Petroleum and Natural Gas Amendment Rules 2003. That has never been done. Moreover, the amount of royalty is 20% of the crude price, which has not been revised for long. This amount is too small. Sir, I raise 2-3 points related to Northeastern region. Prime Minister's development initiative for Northeast has been highlighted by the Finance Minister in her budget speech. Will this initiative, with a budgetary provision of rupees 1,500 crores, address any core issues and concerns of the state's youth of Northeast states? The Act's policy is just a slogan as no concrete action plan has been formulated to make the region a hub of export centers with the border countries. At last, conceived in place of Seven Sisters by the Prime Minister during his visit to the region, I am wondering what is a special component except Prime Minister expertise in coining slogan and nothing else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, just 2 lines. I like to conclude by requesting the government, please do not play with Jumla and slogan with the Northeast people, especially the youth, as the region has been in political conflict because of geographical location. The union budget is a good weapon to create confidence in the future in the mind of people, but sorry to say, no such attempt has been made in that direction. Thank you.
Sri Anil Desai.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, sir. So while presenting this year's budget, the Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, said that since India is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and has entered into Amrit Kal, the government has aimed to attain the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, and this budget will pave the way to achieve its desired goals in the near future and will thus make India a $5 trillion economy. But the fact is, the expectations and hopes of the common people are belied completely in this budget. Amid rising unemployment, inflation and falling incomes, which caused uneasiness among common people, though this situation got aggravated due to COVID pandemic, we do believe, nonetheless, this budget has left poor people high and dry. Rosy pictures are drawn in earlier budgets are far from realization, and yet another new dream is shown to the people who are expecting Achhe Din, hoping against the hope. The stark reality is rich has become richer and poor has become poorer. Sir, ours is an agrarian economy, though agriculture sector has been allocated quite a bit in this budget. The budgetary provisions about rural development and especially Manrega have been reduced. This will not only create difficulties in the development of the rural areas, but will also affect various schemes implemented for farmers through Manrega. The provision made in this budget for Manrega would provide around hardly 30 days of employment instead of 100 days of employment, which is stipulated in this scheme. Sir, we cannot forget the contribution of the farming community who produced record grains during COVID pandemic and immensely supported our economy in tough times. And therefore, agriculture sector should have been allocated much more funds than whatever is being provided in this budget. Similarly, agro-processing industry too needed more thrust than the provisions made. So creation of employment in the agro sector is the need of the hour, and therefore FM should have considered this aspect in order to boost the rural economy. Unless these issues are addressed on priority basis, doubling of the farmers' income will also remain a distant dream. The allocation made in the healthcare sector should have been much more than the last year, as strengthening of health infrastructure is of essence. However, schemes introduced in this budget like Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission and National Tele-Mental Health Programs scheme in the health sector were necessary, and it is laudable. One Class, One TV channel program of PM E-Vidya will be expanded from 12 to 200 channels. This initiative to impart quality education to our children, particularly in rural areas, and those from SC, ST and other weaker sections is a welcome step, I would say. But overall budgetary provision in the education sector should have been in the range of around 3% of the GDP, which is unfortunately 1% in the present budget. So under the heading Housing for All, objective of building 80 lakh houses for identified eligible beneficiaries of PM Awas Yojana has been set, and rupees 48,000 crores have been allocated for this purpose. The Honorable FM has desired that private developers would participate in building affordable housing, which also has a huge potential for employment. But the purchasing power of the people, that is a million-dollar question, sir, because people have lost their jobs, people have suffered a lot on their small businesses, having heavily during pandemic, and at the same time the real estate industry has been performing at its low at this since onslaught of COVID-19. Although banks are recapitalized and substantially, there is still lukewarm response to the credit offtake. The government should devise special schemes to give boost to the real sector, else housing for all by 2022 will also turn out to be a hollow promise. Sir, the impact of COVID pandemic on MSME sector was so bad that in the last 2 years, several small and medium units faced closure due to heavy losses during lockout and consequently retrenchment of workers, which brought several families on the road. Emergency credit line guarantee scheme definitely gave much needed support to this sector to make comeback and regenerate employment. But all is not well yet. MSME sector does need more support from the government by way of unrestrained lending through the banks and NBFCs, as this sector is one of the largest contributors to the GDP of our country and also a job creator. So the focus of the government in this budget on creating modern infrastructure is another big promise. However, the success of the infra build-out, especially where PPPs are being visualized, will depend on the schemes being properly framed. National Infrastructure Pipeline and Gati Shakti program sound good, but need effective implementation. Government should make the terms and conditions of the projects attractive enough to entice the private sector to implement them. Honorable FM has said in her budget speech that public investments would need to be complemented by private capital on a significant scale. Therefore, this will materialize only if projects are remunerative for the concessioner. Else, these mega projects will not gather the required momentum and the target will not be achieved. Sir, the outlay for the scheme for financial assistance to the states for capital investment has been enhanced to rupees 15,000 crore, and also provision of 1 lakh crore to assist the states in catalyzing overall investment in the economy would be meaningful only if these loan facilities are free of onerous conditions. Else the states will not get any benefits out of this enhanced limits. Sir, my state of Maharashtra, under the leadership of Honorable CM Uddhav Thackeray and with the help of Mahavikas Aghadi government, irrespective of the support whether we get from the centre or not, but the Maharashtra government has taken so many measures that Maharashtra is on the progressive path and has still kept #1 in the country. So the middle class had hoped that FM would give small taxpayers some relief and provide extra support to small businesses. It was also expected that the tax rates would be raised for large corporates who are doing extremely well. But the government chose to favour the corporates, and the middle class, which is battling the soaring inflation and high medical expenses, is left disappointed.
Thank you.
Announcement made. Only one last point, sir. Only two points are there. Announcement made by the government in the earlier years about creation of 2 crore jobs every year has come down to creating 60 lakhs jobs in this year's budget. Dismantling of profit-making public sector will certainly impact the employment scenario very badly. Disinvestment in LIC, privatization of nationalized banks, sale of BPCL, Pawan Hans will have a bad impact on the economy. It is surprising that on one side, the government is doing away with its ownership in the public sector and at the same time investing sizable capital to support the Vodafone Idea venture in private sector. Sir, it is unfortunate that government-owned general insurance companies' employees, numbering around 1 lakh, have not yet got their upward wage revision, which is pending for last 5 years. Every meeting with the management and the government, the poor employees are only promised of early settlement, but no action on their rightful dues. I would urge the Honorable FM to Finance Minister to award these employees, last point, sir, I'm making, to award these employees their wage revision at the earliest.
Thank you.
Sir, Gst Collection in January this year was more than 1.40 lakh crore, but Honorable Finance Minister did not announce any benefit out of this to the states. Also, the states had demanded to extend the 5-year period of GST by this year by another 3 years, but the budget is silent.
Now it will not go on record because I have called the next speaker. Please.
This mic goes on.
So how many minutes, sir?
5 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Due to paucity of time, I confine to only 2 points. Most of the points has been discussed by my colleagues. So one is about the COVID and the healthcare, and second is agriculture and the farmers. So the COVID-19 pandemic has showcased the inability of the central government. The pandemic has brought great visibility to the country's health infrastructure and the need to increase government spending on public health care to at least 2.5% of the GDP, as recommended by the National Health Policy of 2017. India's public health spending as share of GDP is the lowest among the BRICS nations. While the government is praising the schemes and policies it has introduced to improve the condition of farmers in the country and the positive growth witnessed by the agriculture sector last year, the government is silent about the issue of the farmers and the agriculture labor suicides that is still prevalent in the country. According to the data released by NCRB, the suicide in farming sector in the country increased in the year 2020 when compared to 2019. So the budget not touched the millions of Indians who are adversely affected by COVID. As many of my colleagues said, the haves and have-nots, the gap has widened. The haves have become richer, the have-nots have become more poorer. So there is no real freedom without economic freedom. And the way in which nations' income and expenditure is allocated is increasing in the number of poor, especially among the farmers. So the COVID pandemic has affected the nation in all strata of people. But when you go through the statistics, it does mostly affect the farmers who feed us. And the maximum people who have died due to COVID are also the farmers. Now, the farmers are facing the SARFAESI provision are mercilessly being invoked by the banks. Here I request the Government of India to take necessary steps, at least to take the first step to write off the waive of all the agricultural loans which are taken by the farmers who have died due to COVID, who are the bread earners of the family. So I request the Government of India to take a special package for ordinary workers who are facing great difficulty in finding jobs during the COVID times. So regarding Kerala, the Kerala economy, the Kerala's economy backbone depends on the rubber farmers and the price of the rubber. I specifically, I am raising this point, mainly because the rubber farmers are in distress. And the finance minister, she was in charge of the Ministry of Commerce earlier. She knows the plight of the farmers. She had come to the Kerala. She has had an interaction with the farmers and stakeholders. And she really knows the plight of it. That's why I wanted to talk about the rubber farmers here, sir. So I have taken this issue in the 0 hour also, sir. So mainly because the rubber, the price, fall of rise and fall of price of natural rubber, sir. Mainly this is due to the dumping of the import of natural rubber, sir. So here, now recently, the Competition Commission of India had fined leading 5 tire manufacturers with a tune of 8,788 crores of rupees. For what? For forming a cartel and purposely, deliberately reducing the price of natural rubber. At the same time, when the natural rubber the price goes down, actually the tire price also goes down. They have decided to increase the price of the tire. Who are the victims, sir? The victims are the poor farmers, sir. And they've been fined only it is for 1 year, sir. God knows it would have happened throughout from the 2005 onwards for the last 1 decade, sir. But the Competition Commission of India got the evidence only for 1 year, sir. And the farmers are facing this, because of this fall in price of the rubber, sir. Not only that, sir, here the people of India who have a vehicle, they are also the victims, because artificially the price of the tire also has been increased. Now, my request to the Government of India, one, if we need to increase the bound duty, the tire should be, the rubber should be, sir, two minutes, sir. The rubber should be declared as agriculture produce. I request the government of India to, one, to increase, to declare the rubber as agriculture produce, and also to have a mechanism to calculate the cost of production in every year and a minimum support price of 250 rupees per kilo of natural rubber from present onwards. And lastly, I request the government of India, the fine collected 1,788 crores of rupees, which belongs to the farmer, should be immediately given to the farmer. Take into consideration that a minimum support price of 250 rupees should be given to the farmers, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Shri Ramnath Thakur ji.
धन्यवाद उपसभापति महोदय, आपने मुझे
आप बैठ के भी बोल सकते हैं ठाकुर साहब।
वित्तीय वर्ष 22 और 23 पर बोलने के लिए समय दिया, इसके लिए मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं और शुरू करता हूं। मैं बजट के पक्ष में बोलने के लिए खड़ा हुआ। भारत सरकार ने पंजाब से बंगाल भाया गया बिहार 1600 एकड़ जमीन सिलेक्ट किया है, जिसमें उद्योग के लिए इन्होंने प्रोविजन किया है। यह अगर काम इस वित्तीय वर्ष में शुरू हो जाता है तो बिहार जो बेरोजगार है, उद्योग धंधे नहीं हैं, उद्योग धंधे लगने के बाद लोगों को जागृति पैदा होगी और उद्योग धंधे बढ़ेंगे, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होगा, बड़े उद्योगों के साथ छोटे छोटे उद्योग भी लगने शुरू हो जाएंगे, तो इसमें बिहार की प्रगति और उन्नति होगी। इसलिए हम भारत सरकार को इसके लिए बधाई देना चाहते हैं। दूसरी बात मैं कहना चाहता हूं, बिहार में कृषि, पशुपालन, मत्स्य पालन, सब्जी उत्पादन, फल उत्पादन, मसाला उत्पादन की अपार संभावनाएं हैं। उत्तम कोटि के मखान बिहार के दरभंगा जिले में होता है। इस व्यवसाय को सुदृढ़ करने के लिए केंद्र सरकार को कदम उठाना चाहिए। मुजफ्फरपुर की शाही लिट्टी उस संबंधित उत्तर बिहार में लगना चाहिए उद्योग के रूप में। प्रत्येक जिले में फूड प्रोसेसिंग की व्यवस्था होनी चाहिए और इससे रोजगार मिलेगा। समस्तीपुर जिला में, बिहार के समस्तीपुर जिला में तंबाकू, हल्दी का उत्पादन होता है। इससे भी मसाले के रूप में कारखाना लगना चाहिए। बिहार में बहुत बड़ा अंतरराष्ट्रीय सीमा है। हमारे रक्षा की क्षेत्र में बिहार में रक्षा गलियारा की निर्माण कराया जाए, जिससे रक्षा उत्पादन में आत्मनिर्भर बिहार को लाभ हो। केंद्र सरकार को हम धन्यवाद देते हैं कि इन्होंने नदियों को जोड़ने का कार्यक्रम शुरू किया है। बिहार में, उत्तर बिहार में के 28 जिले नेपाल के कारण बाढ़ ग्रसित होता है, जबकि दक्षिण बिहार में 10 जिले सूखाग्रस्त होते हैं। बिहार की सरकार ने उत्तर बिहार की नदियों को दक्षिण बिहार से जोड़ने का प्रोजेक्ट बनाया है। उस पर प्राथमिकता देने का काम भारत सरकार करे, जिससे बिहार आर्थिक गतिविधि बढ़ सके। पांचवी बात मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि जातीय गणना भारत सरकार को कराना चाहिए। इससे छोटी छोटी जातियों की क्या समस्या है, उसका क्या रूप है, इसको जातीय गणना कराना चाहिए और इसे भारत सरकार को इस बजट में लाना चाहिए। ये मेरी मांग है। दूसरी मांग है कि 22-23 के बजट में 25,000 किलोमीटर हाई नेशनल वे सड़क और नेशनल हाईवे बनाने का काम शुरू किया है। बिहार में कहां किस किस जिले में ये प्रोजेक्ट शुरू होगा, इसकी हम भारत सरकार से मांग करते हैं। भारत सरकार ने हवाई अड्डा को भी विकसित करने का काम शुरू किया है। तो बिहार में किन किन हवाई अड्डों के लिए इन्होंने मांग रखा है, किन किन जिलों को सिलेक्ट किया है, इसकी भी हम मांग करते हैं कि हम बिहार में हवाई अड्डा को बनना चाहिए और जिस जिले में हवाई अड्डा नहीं है उस जिले को भी इसको शामिल करना चाहिए। ये हमारी मांग है। मैं आपसे निवेदन करना चाहता हूं उपसभापति महोदय कि अदालत में 76% विचाराधीन कैदी पड़े हुए हैं, वर्षों से पड़े हुए